Hey, I'm Wes, the Explosion, and Capcom recently announced the Mega Man Star Force Legacy Collection, which is a lot of words. While many seem excited, I've heard others ask, where's the Legends Collection? And yeah, that's a decent question. Star Force and Legends are the only two series we still need compilations for, before Capcom has to start dipping into spin-off stuff. While it might seem like it'd be a 50-50 shot, my own guess would have been that we'd see Volnutt again before Geo. Though, maybe this should have been more obvious. Unfortunately, I don't have an uncle who works at Capcom I can ring up for clarification, but I think I know enough that we can speculate on why they took this direction rather than the other. But first, let's eliminate what it's not: popularity. Don't take this as me dunking on Star Force. What's good and what's popular ain't necessarily always the same thing. Besides, I think all the Mega Man series are great. I don't play only a specific subset like some might. If I had to guess where each series would rank in the fandom, I'd probably put them something like this. Though, you let me know if you'd make any adjustments. Some of this is with hindsight. While I knew Battle Network was big, especially in Japan, I don't think any of us expected its Legacy Collection to take off as much as it did. Even Capcom seemed surprised. So while smart money might have been to go right for X, then maybe Classic or Battle Network, this is what we're actually getting, and there is a certain logic here. If you're porting over the Mega Man games, you have to start with Classic. It's where it all began, though release date isn't the formula either, at least not entirely. They went Classic, X, Zero ZX, Battle Network, and now Star Force. Which is more a division based on genre. As long as we don't include oddball spin-off stuff like Battle and Chase, Mega Man can be broken up into 3 different categories. You got the platformers, Classic, X, Zero, and ZX, you have the adventure dungeon crawler, Legends, and then you have the deck building RPGs, Battle Network and Star Force. And other than that hiccup in the middle, that order should sound pretty darn familiar. The way I have it listed is also the canonical timeline, Battle Network and Star Force having their own, which is why, while close, these collections don't quite follow that order either, them taking a break from the main timeline to tackle the RPGs before finishing that one off with Legends. So grouping things by genre, we're doing, by release order of the first game in each, platformers, then RPGs, then adventure. And I kinda feel like we could leave things there, but there's a few other oddball factors that, while I think game type is the primary reason, might also have at least contributed to the decision to save Legends for last. The next is pretty much what I just said, but a bit more specific: how similar Star Force is to Battle Network. Not to downplay how much Star Force innovates, the story, character designs, perspective, card selection, and connectivity all do a lot to distinguish it from its predecessor, but at the same time, it is a Mega Man RPG where you move around on a grid, use a buster and deck to take out enemies, and have a busting grade based on how well you perform. The two are even compatible enough to cross over at one point. To mention it again, the Battle Network Legacy Collection did extremely well, Capcom even being asked on how they were planning on capitalizing on its success at a shareholders meeting. While a new sequel or a ton of merch are possible answers, making the next Retro Collection its sister series ain't a bad move either. Think of it like when you're doing some online shopping and whatever you're looking at has some suggestions at the bottom of the page, saying that, if you like this, you might also like that. If you're enjoying Battle Network, Star Force is the that. Then there's the availability of the games. Star Force is locked on the DS, but Legends, you can still download on your PS3 and Vita. Yeah, it's a pain to do so, you need to load up some funds onto your account through another device and also just have access to old consoles, you can't just waltz into Walmart for this one, but it's still a lot better than needing to pay collector prices for a bunch of old carts. I'll admit that I, myself, was hoping for Star Force Next for this exact reason. While I have copies of all of these, Star Force being on the DS makes it difficult to record them. I only have one version of each, and if anything ever happens to my disc, I'm confident I could finagle rebuying Legends digitally. All that said, this probably is the weakest reason here since, when most of the previous Legacy collections came out, there was typically a method to buy the included titles in some way, shape, or form digitally. Rip the Wii U eShop. If all of this were about availability, Star Force would have been one of the first to need a modern port, so I'm gonna say that if this was a factor, it was a pretty small one. Something that could have been a bigger deal are the adjustments that these games might need to make. For the most part, these collections are just ports. While I don't know what goes into it specifically, I imagine just getting them to run on newer hardware isn't the biggest deal in the world. The exception to this was ZX, a pair of games that required a pair of screens, which most modern TVs don't have. This was probably the first series that they had to really question how they wanted to handle. With ZX though, the second screen was pretty minimal, and you were looking at different aspect ratios, so they were able to just throw it in a corner, and in the few instances where it actually mattered, you could use the second joystick and click it in to manipulate it. With Star Force, which screen is the focus swaps, and while your awaiting cards might not matter much when you're fighting, in between turns, you probably want to look pretty closely at them to choose your hand. While the trailer we got was pretty sparse, the Japanese one was over twice as long and showed some actual gameplay. That includes how things are formatted, which changes depending on what's going on, adjusts itself mid-battle, and even has some different display options, or at least that's how it's looking. While I don't think this is rocket science, it does seem like the most work they've had to put into setting up how these things are displayed, so maybe that played a small part in when this is getting released. Legends, on the other hand, is an early 3D title where the biggest barrier to entry are the controls. Well, outside of used game prices. Granted, these did get better as the series went on. You're stuck with an N64 and original PS1 controller for the first, but Legends 2 making use of a second joystick. I'd say that it didn't play the best still, but it felt like a huge improvement when I loaded the sequel up. Or maybe things were so sad in the original that any slight step up felt world-changing. Today though, not only do we have a better understanding of how to control things in 3D, but also controllers with more inputs. It would not surprise me at all if the ease of entry modification we got for a Legends collection was better controls, since while I think longtime fans will be fine, I could see this being a make or break for a lot of newcomers. Depending on how far they took things, revamping the controls could be even more work than the screen thing for DS games. To back up what I'm saying, another line from a shareholders meeting said that they were considering how to tackle some of the technical issues for future collections. Yeah, this might just be something they have to mull over regardless, but at the same time, for Battle Network, they added an online and had to localize a previously Japanese-only dungeon. And in addition to beefing up Star Force's online offerings, they also seem to be doing a lot with the 3D models and card art, so these definitely seem to be getting more complicated as they go along. It's possible that Legends will see the biggest improvements and additions yet, or maybe Capcom just doesn't know how to revamp the games to make them more palatable to a wider audience while keeping the experience intact. Or maybe I'm full of it, but whether it's a Herculean amount or not, I at least have hope that they will put some effort into making Legends easier to play. A more solid point though is that Legends only has 2 games. The only other series in the same boat is ZX, and that got tacked on to the end of the Zero collection. While Star Force ain't doing much better with only 3, who doesn't love a trilogy, and with each entry having multiple versions, they can market it as you actually getting 7 games, even though they're pretty much the same and most people will just choose which one looks the coolest then never touch the other editions. I really hope nobody sees the game count and then feels ripped off when they actually start playing them. And I know what you're gonna say, they could just include the Misadventures of Tronbon to buff the game count for Legends, and... no. Well, it's not impossible, it's just unlikely. Up till now, Capcom has made a point of never including anything other than the mainline entries in a Legacy collection. Not Battle Network 5 Double Team, which is just a better version of the base game, and even more telling, no Mega Man and Base, which, while it doesn't have a number, still feels like just as much of a Mega Man game as the later classic titles. Granted, most of these collections still have some sort of bonus content, the DLC for 9 and 10 for Classic, the X Challenge for X, Z Chaser for Zero ZX, and download chips for Battle Network, but so far it's never been a completely extra game. There are also alternatives though to address the low game count. They could include both 64 and Legends 1 and count them as 2 games, it's not too far off from what they do with the different versions for the RPGs. The Legends 3 demo was in a playable state, so they could include that since they're already messing with the 2-screen thing with the other collections. Or they could just go with the 2 games that we got. While 2 might not sound as impressive as 6, at the same time, pretty sure it'd take me longer to get through Legends and Legends 2 than it would to clear the first Classic Legacy collection. As long as it was appropriately priced, I wouldn't complain about just getting a duology when the Legends Legacy collection drops, though I know to a lot of other people on the surface this will seem lacking. Should I be saving some of these ideas for their own video? Anyway, even if there are some ways you could puff this up, Capcom still might consider it a hard sell. But all that leads to my final bit of speculation, and it's a big one. Mega Man Legends 3 was one of the most public game cancellations we've ever seen. There was much to do when it was announced. We got a forum to allow for fan input, complete with assigned Surbot numbers, and the return of the boss design contest, which brought players into the process earlier than a game would typically even be announced. They put together that demo I mentioned. It was meant to cost a small fee, and we were told that whether it sold or not would be what determined if we got the full game. Then some unfortunate things happened, and news started drying up until we got the biggest announcement of all. Legends 3 wasn't coming. We didn't even get to put our money where our mouths were and buy up the demo. Not only that, but a poorly worded tweet added fuel to the fire by seeming to blame the fans for not engaging with the project enough. People didn't forget about this though. Most of the Mega Man series could be open for new entries, and both X and ZX end on cliffhangers as well, but fans of Legends might just be the most committed to getting their next sequel. It's spawning the Get Me Off the Moon fan group. Maybe it's due to lack of alternatives. There's a lot less Mega Man adventure titles than platformers or the RPGs. Maybe it's because they came so close, only to be denied. Or maybe they just took that "not enough fan interaction" comment to heart. But I think that they might be more vocal for a Legends 3 than most other fans are for an X9. And that might be a little intimidating for Capcom.
If you think people are whining now, think of how loud they're gonna be if a Legend collection comes out, especially if it sells well. It'll probably remind a lot of people that forgot about that series that, they did want to see how things would turn out.
So if I can dip a bit into conspiracy theory territory, there is a non-zero chance that Capcom sees a legend-shaped landmine in the already sometimes treacherous Mega Man landscape. Again though, this is all just speculation. While I think I'm pretty dead on with my first point, all the rest could have easily never have been considered when deciding on what order to release these ports in, though thinking that there could be some big Legends cover-up is certainly more exciting than just saying that it's the odd man out when it comes to gameplay. But that's just about all the silliness I can come up with at the moment, so what do you think? Do any of my ideas seem likely? Did I miss any big obvious elements that could have played a part? And how would you rank the Mega Man series by popularity? That'll do it, so thanks as always for watching, and maybe consider subscribing if you're into retro games, especially Mega Man. Ride on, Legends never die.